Good evening, and welcome to a very special evening edition of Day 4 on a Tuesday. So it's Day 4 on Day 2 with the man, Frank Scalish. Show number 117 for those who are keeping track, and also part 2 of our Ned Rig extravaganza. Frank, how we doing tonight?
We are live. We're good.
Dude, I am...
You're spent.
Is that the term slap happy?
Yes, you are.
Dude, Saturday, all day, Lake Eufaula. Sunday, all day, Lake Eufaula. Yesterday, all day, rain. So there's nothing worse. It was the coldest day. I learned this from Kevin Ledoux. The coldest day in Oklahoma in 113 years.
What?
For June 12th. The high was
June 12th.
The high was 66.
But with the rain.
On Sunday, it was 94.
Holy smokes, dude.
And then I fished today, hopped in the truck, came back home, took care of some business, and now we are live for part 2 of the Ned Rig Show. So what have you been up to?
I filmed 3 videos, 2 on the water, 1 in the studio. I had fun. I did a Ned Rig video on the new Ned Dingers, and it was fun, to say the least.
Really? Largies, smallies?
Largemouth. Yeah, largemouth. I'm doing 2. I'm doing a smallmouth one. This one was largemouth. What's up, guys? I see the comments flying in.
Yeah, I'm just throwing some comments up here. So, if you're watching this live, chances are you've already seen part 1 of the Ned Rig Show from last week. You teased some diagrams for this week, so I'm excited to get into this week. Last week we covered grass lakes primarily for largemouth with Ned rigs. Correct. This week we go to the fun stuff.
Yeah, this week, today.
Well, not that the other stuff isn't fun, but
no,
I'm just saying,
it was.
Guy.
I have to be honest with you. It was a good time. I actually got to film an on the water show of exactly 100% what I talked about last show, and it went off without a hitch. I mean, it was spot on, perfect. The fish that I was catching, their tails were all, wore flat on the bottoms. Their bellies were all concave. It was just exactly like the show was. And so I got to do it, and it was fun. I mean, seriously, it was a good time.
I would be remiss to say there's only potential for 4 nights a year where the Stanley Cup can be awarded. And tonight, I do believe Tuesday night is game 5 of Vegas versus Florida. The people in Canada are like, really? Vegas and Florida? The Knights of the
right.
Most of Canadians anyway. Do you follow that at all? Anything? I know you're in hockey country. I don't think we've ever had a hockey discussion, Uncle Frank.
We have not. Every now and then what I do is when the finals come around, I watch some of them because it's not that I'm not a hockey fan. It's just that I don't watch it. And so, but when they're battling it off for the finals, I'll watch a few games. And they're fun. I mean, they're a good time.
Definitely a different intensity between playoff hockey and regular season, and then Stanley Cup finals hockey and playoff hockey is a whole different. So,
yeah. So it's good. I mean, it's good.
Were you a child prodigy athlete growing up, Frank?
I swam, I dove, and I skied.
Wait, have we had this talk? You were a competition diver?
Yeah.
Like through high school?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I lettered.
Like the triple...
I actually lettered in diving.
What was your signature dive?
Whatever I had to throw.
What does that mean? I'm not into the diving thing.
So you'll have mandatory dives.
Okay.
That you have to throw. And then you throw in your degrees of difficulty on your dives subsequently after that. The more degrees of difficulty, the higher the points, but also the easier it is to botch them up.
Right.
So I there was no dive that I was afraid of to do. I would do anything. Um, a triple was a little tough for me, especially if I had to throw a twist in there. That was a little bit tough. Um,
With the
in
Speedo. You're wearing the Speedo up there doing it from the top 30 foot down, doing all that
Yeah,
with a like a pin drop, just shoot right through the water.
right, and don't forget too. Back then, I only weighed like 130 pounds,
That's what
140
Sean
pounds.
says. Uncle Frank in a Speedo is an interesting picture.
No, it ain't, John. Shame on you, dude. Shame on you. And then and then
Jacob wants to know if your Speedo was crushed velvet.
you guys are so funny. And then of course I skied.
Like downhill?
Downhill, yeah, downhill and moguls. And then my diving coach used to get really pissed because s- ski season was during diving season. And so he'd be like, "You're not allowed to go skiing if you break your leg
Yeah.
or something, you're our varsity guy, and then you're out, and then that'll be a problem." And I said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah. I won't ski. I won't ski." And I'd show up to diving practice with my skis on my car, and as soon as diving was over, I'd be down to the slopes.
Did
So he
you
was,
ever belly flop? That seems to be a common question here. Yeah, like a miss. Like I think we've all seen the dives that go horribly wrong.
yeah, I've had some go horribly awry, but not like not like a belly flop,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? But
yeah.
like I threw a 1.5 with a full twist and didn't get out of it in time and hit the water at a bad angle. I threw an inward and almost hit my head on the diving board.
That'd be a Greg Louganis, right?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And stuff like that, but mostly in practice. Um, practice was where all the damage occurred because you're throwing stuff that you're not accustomed to, and you want to always try to increase your degree of difficulty. So the more you put into the dive, the harder it gets, and then
Mhm.
in practice you just throw it. Just throw it, get the movements down, get your rotations down, get your bearings straight, and then you start to tighten it up where you're nice and close to the board and everything is perfectly in, you're perfect and everything else. But practice, things go bad. I mean, they go bad.
But
So
so let me ask you this. There's very few feelings that I've had like to right when you're going out on the ice. One of those would be when you're in contention, you're going into the final day and you have that moment where you're like, all right, here we go. And then you go out onto the water. Do you find that same thing from tournament fishing, that you got that same kind of, I guess, adrenaline rush and focus that you did as an athlete?
100%. Actually, it's worse for me in tournaments. I'm way more amped up in a tournament. I'm ready to go. In fact, to be honest with you, it's like when they're getting like right to my boat number, I almost feel like I'm gonna start crying. I'm so excited. I'm like, call that number. You know what I mean? Call that number. And then I'm freaking out, running down the lake. My adrenaline's in overdrive. And the first stop that I always make, I am like almost trembling on the front deck.
Still, I mean,
Still,
even on the
yeah.
Elite Series, after you've done it a
Oh
hundred
yeah.
times, you still got the shakes.
Every time. And then I make two or three casts, and then it's like and tunnel vision, and I'm in. But yeah, every single time, dude. Um, it's still to this day.
Same.
Uh,
The only other thing you've done that gives you that feeling right before the gates open on the ski slopes or you climb up onto the platform.
yeah, diving didn't do it so much for me. Um, like I love to do it, and but I wasn't amped like I am with tournament fishing. It was exciting and fun, and of course, diving. You're the focal point.
Yeah.
There's nothing else going around
Yeah.
you, and so when you blow it, everyone on the planet knows you blew it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's no, like, here, I'll tell you the truth. The first time I made districts, um, so I make districts, and I'm pumped because it's hard to do with all the schools we got here. And so I make I make the districts, and I go down to Columbus, and I'm competing against, a ton of other really talented divers, and the back dive was probably my best dive. Like, I could consistently get 9.5s across the board on my back dive. So it was a required dive in that district, and I was so jacked up because I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna come right out of the gate, dude. I overshot the back dive and completely botched it. And when I went underwater, I stayed there because I knew I screwed the dive up so bad. So I held my breath and I stayed down as long as I can. People were coming to the edge of the water and stuff like
Making
that.
sure you were okay.
Sure I wasn't dead, but I was so embarrassed. So when I got out of the pool, there was a table there. Okay, there was a table, and I got out of the pool, and I literally just slid right under the table and sat under the table
Oh
going,
no.
"Oh my God." I completely screwed it up, and I made it through like 3 rounds in the districts, and then I choked on another dive, and I was out. I was so pissed, dude.
But
I
it
was so
happens.
mad. Yeah, but it
Yeah, I
happened.
don't know how that in 117 weeks of day 4 with Frank Scalish, we haven't the diving past has not come up.
Yeah, I dove. I swam a little bit. I used to sub in as a swimmer when one of the swimmers couldn't got hurt or couldn't make it. Um, and then but skiing, downhill skiing got me jacked up like fishing does.
Yeah.
And then of all things, after high school, I went to Vail. I went to Vail, Colorado, skiing for 3 weeks, and it was a blast. And then we were getting ready to come home, and we drove. We were getting ready to come home, and Loveland Pass avalanched, and so
Oh,
we had to spend another week there until they cleared the pass. And so we just called Western Union and wired more money in. And
you had a month.
yeah, so I literally spent a month in Vail, and then the craziest thing. Um, that spring I was fishing a river, and not out of the boat. I was wading it. It's a wadable river. It's one of our steelhead rivers, and I was actually fishing for smallmouth, and I slipped on a rock,
Oh.
and when I fell on my tailbone, and I shattered L4 and L5. I shattered my discs and wound up in traction for 2.5 weeks in the hospital. And the doctor told me that I'm not allowed to ever ski again.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, it really was a bummer. And I said, "What if I ski?" He goes, "Well, if you fall wrong or you do some damage, you could maybe not walk."
That'd be
So yeah, so that was the end of my skiing, and I was really devastated.
Can you
Really.
water ski? I feel like that would be a combination of both.
I don't water ski. I actually hate water skiing.
Wait a second. You're a diver and a downhill skier, and
Yeah,
you
I hate
hate water skiing?
hate water skiing. Yeah. Yeah,
Why?
because I like the freedom. I like the freedom of not being tethered to a rope.
I got you.
When we were in Vail, I know this is nothing about fishing, you guys.
I don't care.
We're gonna get to it.
I'm enjoying it.
When we were in Vail, what I found out, because I had never been there before, I hooked up with a local guy when we were down there. I met him through a group of people. I was with my cousin and a bunch of his buddies, and we met these local guys down there. And so this dude goes, "Hey, do you want to go do the drop offs?" And I go, "What the hell are drop offs?" He goes, "There's a section of the mountain where you ski, and there's sheer cliffs on the mountain, and you go over the cliffs, but don't like freak out because the mountain's the same trajectory. So when you go over a cliff, and you land, you're landing on the same trajectory of where you left, where you're airborne.
I
So the
got you.
cliff would go down, but when you land, you're landing on the slope at the same trajectory. So it's not a bam, bam, you're not slamming
It's
down. It's
soft.
smooth. It's smooth. It's real smooth. But you're 20, 30 feet in the air. Like you're literally floating for 20 or 30 feet till you hit the snow again. Then you go over the next one and so on. So I'm like, yeah, dude, I want to do it. So we go and we start running these drop offs. And it was a panic attack, dude. It was so much fun. So we get down. You never ski all the way to the bottom of the mountain because these are real mountains. So we get down, several layers and cut across and get back on a lift and go back to the top. So we're all on the lift. And when you're on this gondola, okay, you're literally thousands of feet off the ground at some points. Okay. So you're sitting in this thing and you're there and you look out the window and everything looks, that big. And there's all kinds of, it's an eclectic crowd in the gondola because you don't know who's getting in with you because
They're just
so
captive.
right. So it's kind of eclectic and you got a long ride up this flipping mountain. So we're sitting in there and I'm with the dude I met down there that we're skiing the cliffs with, and then my cousin had his buddies there, and of course his buddies were all from Florida, and so they're literally out of control. Like I can't get into too many details, but I will
Just say Florida man. Have you ever Googled Florida man?
So they're out of control. So it gets real quiet. We're going up there and it's real quiet. And one of the dudes from Florida goes, "Man, did you hear what happened here 2 weeks ago?" And they're dead silent in this gondola. He goes, "The gondola jumped off the tracks."
No way.
Yeah, so he's telling this story. Of course, it's all BS, but nobody in the gondola knows it's BS. So they're all sitting there, and he goes, "Yeah, I think it was like the second highest pole, like the poles that you go by the poles, and then you go on the cables, and then another pole, and then the cable."
Mm-hmm.
He goes, "I think it was I think it was the pole that's coming up." He says, and he's real quiet, and he goes, "Yeah, they were." They were all, ruckusing around in the gondola and swinging it back and forth and this and that. And then all of a sudden, he goes, "I think it was right here." And when he said here, he slams his ski boots on the bottom of the floor and screams. And everybody in this gondola goes absolutely mental when he did it. You know what I'm saying? And like a bunch of strangers, like I knew 3 of the people in the gondola and nobody else. And it was just, these guys were out of control. So anyway, what I found out was they shut the mountain down at 3 or 3:30 because every night at like 4:30 the snowstorms come in because of the way the atmospheric pressure and shit is around the mountain. The snowstorm comes in, dumps tons of snow on the ground. So they want everybody off the mountain before the storms come in because they don't really know how much accumulation they're going to get or how severe it's going to get. So at 3:30 they shut the lifts down and everybody's got to be down the mountain. So me and this dude would go up there and we would literally hide. We would literally hide until everybody was off the mountaintop except for the patrol. And the patrol, those guys, then they would go around and they would round up all the people that aren't listening to them, right? So when they round up everybody, then we would like come out of hiding. They would all start going down the mountain and we would wait to the last possible second we could wait. So when we skied down, we had to ski from the top of the mountain all the way to the base. No stopping in between. You got to go from top to bottom. And it was like 4 miles of straight solid skiing down this mountain. And we did that every single night except for the first night we were there. We would wait and ski down, and it was awesome, dude. There wasn't a soul on that mountain, and it was as quiet. All you could hear is your skis in the snow. It was fabulous, man. It was absolutely fabulous.
That's awesome. That's good memories.
Yeah, it was great. And they were building the back bowls. Anybody that skis and anybody that's been out in Vail, there's a section of Vail called the back bowls. They didn't have them built when I was there. They were just building them, and they clear cut the forest, and then the snow came, and then these essentially this whole bowl of a mountain was empty. So I was sitting in the condo with my cousin, and I said, "Dude, let's hike up there in the morning. Let's hike up to the top of that thing and ski down." Because we could see it from the condo, and I said, we'll see our ski tracks going down this thing. So we got to hike up there. So he's like, "I will if you will." I said, "I'm doing it whether you go with me or not. I'm going." So that's exactly what we did. So we're hiking up this thing. Now, what I didn't realize was how freaking far it was and how tall this mountain is. So it wasn't like a 2-minute walk up a hill. I mean, this took the better part of, 4 hours to get to the top of this thing. And we had to stop and rest because the snow is knee deep. You can't, it's like, I didn't have snowshoes. So it was like killer. So we got to the first plateau on the mountain. Okay. We got the plateau and then it goes up again. And then you're at the top. So I get to that plateau and I flushed out of a brush top. I flushed a snowshoe hair. Okay.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so this big freaking white rabbit starts taking across this flat. This giant hawk comes out of nowhere, dude, and smokes this bunny. And I mean, dude, there was feathers and fur everywhere. And I sat there and watched this whole thing like right in front of me happen, right? So my cousin's like, "I'm out. I can't go any further." So I said, "Well, wait here. I'll go to the top. I'll ski down. When I get down to you, I'll get you, and then we'll go the rest of the way." So I went back. I went all the way up to the top, and I skied it down. Got him at the plateau, and then we skied right to the back down to the condo. We got to the condo, dude. I turned around. I looked up there, and you could see my,
that's cool.
It
Yeah,
was
your track.
sweet, dude. It was so sweet, and the powder was so deep that when I skied, you didn't hear a noise. It was like silent. Yeah, it was awesome. Anyway, that's that.
Those were some good stories, man. Those were awesome.
Mhm.
I wrote it down. I think a new color needs to be snowshoe hair. I
Ooh,
think white with a little pink, like the ears of the bunny on the inside with just like a little, is that pearlescent pink?
Yeah, and they actually have black and brown feet.
Yeah, I think snowshoe hair I've never heard that. I mean, the closest would have to be like didn't they have like the Arctic fox spinners?
Yeah, dude, an Arctic fox. I tie a lot of flies with Arctic fox fur.
You got someone
Yeah.
Yeah. The Arctic fox has made its way to Juice's jigs, perhaps.
Yeah. Well, he should be tying with fox for sure. It's more durable than marabou, and it moves just like marabou.
You said those people were from Florida in the gondola.
Yeah.
You have seen Florida man stories, right?
I have not.
You have not?
I have never seen one. I have no clue what you're talking about.
Okay, so this is a collection of headlines across Florida newspapers.
Oh,
and
God
then
help us
people
all.
started realizing there's a lot of how should I say tomfoolery going on in Florida for what people are getting arrested for. Like this one says Florida man, so it always starts with Florida man.
I gotcha.
This is like in it. Florida man found with drugs after getting trapped in porta potty.
Okay, that sounds just like those dudes I was with. Right there, that statement alone is good enough.
We haven't even gotten to Florida man charged for throwing hot dogs at St. Pete police officers.
All right, well, hey.
Florida man drives stolen truck to Space Force base to warn of battle between aliens and dragons.
Apparently, he was good friends with Florida man gets caught with drugs in a porta
Florida
potty.
Man wearing nothing but a cowboy hat attacks woman with machete. I mean, these are all real things.
All
Charles Wide Neck McDowell arrested again.
Wide Neck McDowell.
That was his nickname. All right. We do occasionally talk about bass fishing on this show.
Thank God.
And like I said, last week, we talked a lot about bass fishing with a Ned Dinger. And this week, we're going to transition from grass and largemouth to
smallmouth and spotted bass.
Because
here, look, this will translate to spotted bass fisheries for sure. No question about it. Because I've done it a ton of times. So, hey, is my thing blurry to you?
No, you're just a little. No, you're good. Is this the normal lighting that you usually have?
Is it wrong?
No, it seems like it's a little evening lit.
Oh, because it looks blurry to me. My screen looks blurry.
I don't know if you're watching. Does it seem blurry? It doesn't seem blurry to me.
Okay, good. That's all.
I think you might have some setting that's like focusing because you're kind of glowing a little bit this evening, and the background seems a little darker.
Is that better?
Yeah, it wasn't bad before.
All right, is that better or worse? Maybe my little.
It's about the same. That's literally what my optometrist says. Is that better or worse?
Right. Oh, yeah. That's what they. Yeah. Right.
Worse.
Right. I say, I don't know, dude. I'm looking at LASIK surgery.
Now we're getting that there's a little bit of. Yeah. Exactly. Jared said he said I would call it soft, not blurry.
Okay. We're soft lit. Is it too?
Yes.
Is it too much? That's not enough.
No, that looks like you're.
All right.
We can roll with that.
Can we live with this, guys? Come on. Yeah. Someone respond.
Is that better or worse or about the same?
Better or worse or about the same?
That's what they say at the optometrist. Also, William, I know he was asking about it. If you did win a prize on BTL last week, I will have those out next week as soon as this opens over. Like I said, I've been on eFall all day and just drove home. That's just the sun and windburned face. And then I'm headed right back tomorrow. Tournaments Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So
beautiful.
All right. Yeah, you're saying you got the Barbara Walters effect going on. We're good to go.
What the hell? What's Barbara Walters effect?
That's a compliment.
Oh, okay. I'm good.
Look, all good. It's just fine. Very good.
All right. Okay, we're good. All right. Cut it out. Okay, so I'm going to pull one old one and one new one out. This is not old. It's relatively new. We're going to go what I have to do is I have to go near the spawn because we're going to transition out to summer. So this map, I used this map once before for a Great Lakes article. So this could be this distance here. This is the mainland. This distance here could literally be, it could be 50 yards offshore or 250 yards. This distance here on this flat. Okay. So what happens is we'll call this area here. I don't want to say the basin, but it's near the basin. All right. So where this area might be 30 feet deep out here, 40 feet deep out here. As you approach these flats on the main lake, on the Great Lakes, they'll start to rise. And some areas in the flats will rise really steep. Coming out of 28, 30 feet of water, they'll bump right up to 20, 15, 14. And then that flat will run all the way to the mainland and very gradually get to the bank. These are the spawning flats. Isolated boulders mixed with sand is where they spawn on the main lake. So what you have to look for is holding and staging areas. These areas here on these inside swings, if you've got boulder, rubble on these inside swings and on the tops of the points, those are the holding areas. That's where the smallmouth, before they go to spawn, stop, hang out, get fatter, and then slide up to spawn. When they're done spawning, they literally back out to the exact same places. And what happens is Once they're done and they start to back out to these places, now they start to pull out to the farthest stretches of the flat, closest to the basin, or closest to the, 29, 30, 35, 40 feet of water. They start to slide out to these things. Now, here's the important thing. Once they get out here, all right, and they're literally getting deep. Once they get out there, they're going to start to look for things that are not connected to the flat. So isolated from the flat. So what happens is if you're on a flat like this and you have a point that breaks off the flat, what I like to do is I start idling back and forth away from the point, away from the flat, gradually working my way deeper, because this is where you're going to find another glacier deposit, or you're going to find where it carved a groove out, and then it flattened out, and then it, the rock, it couldn't move the bedrock, so then there's a pile of bedrock out there. And this is where I'm starting to look once summer rolls around, off the flat. Okay, now the flat edges will be very pertinent all the way up until July up here. The farther north you go, the longer they'll stay on those things. Summer's later. Up the farther north you go, summer gets later and later. And so that's what you got to be cognizant of. So with the Dinger, the Ned rig, what I like to do with the Ned Dinger is I have two techniques. One I call a slow swim, and this is where I'm going to use a lightweight, a very light head. Now you can't get away with a 1/12 like we did in the grass for largemouth. You're going to have to get a little heavier because there's current on the Great Lakes, and a 1/12 will float away from you. It just will float away. Hey, Frank, I never get to comment because I missed the live shit.
It's just a compliment. Just Keith, it doesn't get to watch the live in the days, just saying he likes what you're doing.
Keith, primo, dude. Thanks, man. Thanks. So we're talking about a slow swim. So here's what I'll do. So you
brought the diagrams tonight, Frank. That is gorgeous.
Dude, I told you, man, we're taking it to another level. So what I did was, you'll cast it out, and remember the other show we were talking about how it'll spiral down?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm using a light enough jig head where I can get the spiral, and then I'm going to cast it up, and I'm literally going to work through my rock vein. Okay. So I cast it up, I let it, and I wait till it hits the bottom. Every time, you have to realize something. Every time that tungsten head or lead head hits a rock, any bass that are near there can hear that. It clicks and ticks just like a real crayfish does. So they can hear that. So that's a critical component of this. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly swim it until I hit another boulder. And then I'm going to slowly swim it. And I'm going to make sure that I'm maintaining, I'm not going to say constant bottom contact, but it's almost like constant bottom contact. So here's how you know you're doing it right. You're going to cast it out. It's going to go down, hit the bottom. You're going to see your line stop. Your line's going to settle. You know it's on the bottom. Then I'm slowly going to reel it real slow, and you'll feel that thing moving. And then all of a sudden, tick, it'll hit something. And then I'm going to keep it moving. Tick, it hits something else. I'm going to keep it moving. Tick, it hits something else. That's how you know you're doing it right. If you're constantly in the rocks and you're trying to snag it out of there, you're too slow, or you're too heavy with the jig head.
You're not hopping it. You're slow reeling it. It's like almost like a midwinter swim bait retrieve.
100%.
Is that a fair assessment?
That's as accurate as you can get with it. And you just want to hit every now and then. You just touch something on the bottom. And that's the slow swim. That is insanely effective. Now, the other technique, obviously, this technique will trigger strikes from fish that are neutral or not in a feeding mode. It's snapping a Ned head. Now, is snapping or stroking? Remember how we used to fish ledges in the old days? We'd stroke a heavy jig straight up, bam, and hit the bottom and stroke it again, bam. So now we're going to do the same thing with the Ned head. So here, we're not going with the lightest head possible. We're going with a heavy Ned head.
Okay.
You're not going to get a spiral when it falls. It's literally going to fall. It's just going to go like that. It's going to go side to side, and it's going to go right to the bottom. And you want that. So it's going to literally, you cast it out, it's going to slam into the bottom. And then you take the rod tip, and you don't go like that with it, because then you're pulling it away from the rocks. You go straight up to your head. You go straight up, just like that, straight up. So you're almost taking the rod tip and hitting your face with it. You just go straight up with it. And it's not hard. You're not smacking it. You just lift it up.
You're just snapping it.
You just snap it
so
up.
You're going from what? If you're doing it with your wrist on a spinning rod, you're going from 6 to 12 with your wrist.
Correct. You're just letting it.
Yep. 6 to 12. 6 to 12.
That's all you're doing.
9, not 6 to 12, 9 to 12.
9 to 12. Because otherwise, you're going to take that jig and you're going to pull it off them rocks.
Yeah.
And you're going to take that thing and you're going to miss 6-7 feet of rock area where a bass could be, neck down in them boulders. So you snap it up. It's going to spiral back down, not spiral, but it's going to literally slackline it down. It's going to slam into the rocks again. What I do when it slams into the rocks again, I drag it for about a foot. I just reel a couple reel turns in the rocks, and then snap it again, and then slackline it down, and then and then snap it again, slackline it down. So what your retrieve is going to really look like is this: snap, fall, slam, move it, snap, fall, slam, move it, snap, fall, slam, move it, etc., all the way through the rocks.
Yep. So it's similar to snapping a tube.
It's the same, almost exactly the same deal as snapping a tube.
Except you're going to move it a little bit more, and you're not going to snap it as hard.
No, right. No, I'm not snapping it as
But you
hard.
also have less resistance. So that bait is just because it's very streamlined. So it's going to shoot up and then fall down. With that tube, you've got a little bit more resistance. You're typically using a harder line.
And when I'm snapping a tube, I'm 1/2 ounce, 3/4 ounce.
Yeah.
When I'm snapping a Ned head, I'm 3/16 or an 1/8.
Yeah.
I mean, or a 1/4.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you have to figure this. I'm using 10-pound braid, which is like thread, an 8-pound fluoro leader. You have almost zero resistance. So that 1/4 ounce or the 3/16 is going to do exactly what you want it to do. Where the tube, I'll use 12-pound braid, 10 or 12-pound fluoro, 3/4 ounce, and I'm cracking it. I mean, I'm cracking it. So that's really how you smallmouth fish with these things on the Great Lakes. Now, inland, spotted bass and stuff like that, you fish exactly the same way. Spotted bass and smallmouth. Happy birthday, Ronnie. Smallmouth bass and spotted bass they're almost behave the same. How they relate to rocks and structure. Now, spotted bass are a little bit different in certain areas. We don't have to get into that right now. They'll do some suspending. They'll, obviously smallmouth do too, but spotted bass behavior is just a smidge different, but there's a lot of overlap between the two. So if you're a good smallmouth guy on the Great Lakes, you'll be a good spotted bass fisherman because you understand how they're relating to that offshore structure. And so that's kind of how that's when I first started fishing these spotted bass fisheries. I never really had a problem catching them. because I just did what I do for smallmouth and they were there. So I caught them. Now, some of the fisheries that you guys have down south or central, they're beautiful because you've got all three species. You've got largies, smallies, and spotted bass. And there's going to be certain times of the year where they're going to overlap, and you're going to catch all three in the same places. Now that window's tight. It's usually post spawn, because you'll have some coming into spawn, some leaving. You'll have a all three in the using the same areas. Very fun time to fish. Table Rock, I caught spotted bass and smallmouth fishing deep submerged trees. I caught them both. They were both using the trees the same exact way, which kind of blew my mind a little bit. But I wasn't going to argue it, because I was catching both of them were, I was catching larger of both doing it. So I didn't really question it too much. Which is really like, see, I get a question a lot of times. People say, dude, what's your favorite lake? And my problem is my favorite lakes to fish are lakes I've never been on before because of the challenge. But I have lakes that I fish well on that I just love fishing because of the diversity in structure, species, all of that. Like Lake Champlain is probably one of my favorite northern lakes to fish, because I can catch smallmouth and largemouth flipping grass, or I can get on the deep rock piles and catch smallmouth. It's a very diverse fishery. Table Rock has to be my next, because it has all three species and there's a million ways to fish it. So it's that kind of, because then I have the problem, which species am I going to target? You know what I mean? And that's the exciting part to me, because now I got to figure out, at the time of year I'm at that lake, Table Rock, what am I going to catch the biggest of? Because sometimes it's not going to be the largemouth. Sometimes it's going to be the smallies. Sometimes it's going to be the spots. And sometimes it's going to be the largemouth. So now you got a whole nother, you have a whole nother mix in there. So it's sweet, dude. And so I love it. But the reason that I did the grass piece first for largemouth, I saw a comment in there about cayuga. The reason I did the grass piece first, because if you're on lakes like the New York finger chains, Champlain, Oneida, the smallmouth will relate to the grass the exact same way the largemouth do. And we talked about the outside rock piles on the grass. You guys remember that from the last show. I'll pull the map just as a refresher.
Hold on, we're showing some Ned Dinger action here.
Outstanding.
So this is what you're talking about when you say, and the reason I pulled this up, you're crashing it back into the bottom. You're thinking there's no way that's making an impact or anything that deep. But if you watch this, it's moving some stuff.
Yeah, it'll kick a dust cloud. It makes noise.
Yeah, look at that head hit. See the dust cloud there?
I mean, you got to understand, the bass can hear that.
Yep.
100% they can hear that. Aside from the fact that they can totally feel it through their lateral line. But you guys remember from the last episode, I talked about finding the rocks on the outside edge of the grass when we did that last week.
Yep.
The rocks on the outside edge.
So there's some similar things there between the grass and the gravel lakes. Correct.
So if you're fishing Michigan, New York, et cetera, and you've got these natural lakes that have grass and smallmouth in them, those smallmouth are going to use those rocks at the edge of that grass. And seldomly, honestly, do you have to go deeper than that to catch them. Now, you can poke around deeper and you could find some hidden gems that not a lot of people are going after, but in reality, in a grass lake, you almost never have to fish deeper than the deepest grass. And that's something to remember. Now, Gunnersville.
Wait a second. Re-say that. In a grass lake.
In a true natural grass lake.
Okay.
You very seldom
name a natural grass lake.
The Five Finger Lakes, Champlain,
okay.
Oneida.
I gotcha. Okay.
Okay. So in a true natural grass lake, and there's tons of them all over the country, but I don't know all the names of them. So in a true natural grass lake, you very seldomly have to fish any deeper than the deepest grass grows.
Okay. So if the grass peters out in 18 foot of water,
that's as deep as you got to go. If it peters out in 15, that's as deep as you got to go. Now, that being said, there's going to be bass that break the rule. There's going to be bass deeper, and there's going to be bass away from the grass. But the main population
general rule of thumb.
Always. So if you go to a lake and like here, I was going to say earlier, Gunnersville, Chickamauga, they're not true natural grass lakes. They're reservoirs with grass in them. So what happens on those lakes is those bass, you'll have bass in the grass and you'll have bass deeper than the grass because that's just the nature of those impoundments, those river impoundments like that. That's just the nature of it. But what I experienced on Gunnersville 3 years ago, I timed it poorly because I couldn't get there when I wanted to be there. So I was a month late. And so I was going there specifically to ledge fish. And I was a month late. A lot of the grass got grown up and matured. And so all the flats were matted. It was like punchable, froggable heaven time on Gunnersville. And so I found a section of the lake that the grass wasn't as prevalent. The first ledge I started catching them. Offshore, legend, deep crankbaits. I was actually throwing DD22s. So at any rate, what was happening the next day, I went out to film the video. And I had found 5 ledges that had some fish on them. What I did was I hooked one. It was a good one. I let it go and I left that section of the ledge and I went to another one. I hooked one, let it go, et cetera, because all I was doing is trying to find enough fish where I could film an instructional video on how to fish main river ledges, secondary river ledges, conjunctions where a small creek merges into a river ledge. So I was going super detail on this. So the next day we went out to film, and son of a gun, man, I caught one fish on the one ledge. I didn't catch another bass on any of the other ledges. And so what wound up happening was I found a real shallow bite going on some of the small bars. And so I wound up throwing shallow crankbaits over the small bars. And then I went to the grass line and started flipping heavy jigs in the grass edges, the outside edges, and catching them that way. So I never got my ledge bite, because what happens on those lakes as that grass matures and gets righteous, a lot of the bass will vacate the bare ledges and go to the grass, because all the shad's there, all the bait's there, everything's going there. So they vacate and they go to that grass. And so you have to be cognizant of that on lakes like Gunnersville, Chickamauga, etc. You have to understand when that grass gets mature, there's really literally like a 2 or a 3 week window where the ledge bite is on fire, like where you go out and you catch 30 on each ledge you stop on. And then all of a sudden the grass is right and them fish go right up into the grass. And then you got to change your tactics. So you got to be cognizant of that. Wow, we're on a merry-go-round today.
No, it's good. I saw a question real quick. Size of that, you're always you're talking about the 3-inch. I'm trying to pull it up here.
Yes, the Yum Dinger.
Oh, let me pull it up 1 second.
Yeah, pull that thing up there.
So when you're netting, now you can net a dinger and cut it in half or bite it in half or do whatever. You can do that. You'll still catch fish on that. But you're talking about the 3, and I think it is 3-inch.
Yes.
Yum Ned Dinger. And the key was, and you went over this last week,
The
air
bubble
pocket,
in the tail.
Bubble in the tail. So, and we'll get back down to it. So when it does that,
it stands up.
So you're seeing that bait is standing up. And that's the bubble in the tail combined with that head. And like if there's a bunch of different heads that you can use as well. Everyone has a Ned, but your favorite is the I like, you had the box.
I like the Yum Ned heads.
Yep.
A lot of times I'll pull the weed guard off of it because I don't hang it up too much in the grass. Now, if I'm fishing a lot of wood debris, I'll leave the weed guard on it. But if I'm fishing grass, I pull the weed guard right off of it. And if I'm fishing bare rock, I pull the weed guard off because it doesn't do anything.
Righteous grass.
Right. But if there's any kind of timber or wood down there, I leave the weed guard on it. It just helps a little bit. You know what I mean? And so that's pretty much what I do with it. Now, there are times on the super clear lakes in the summertime where I'll actually Ned rig a 5-inch dinger.
Mm-hmm.
And I eliminate a lot of bites from little fish doing that. But here, if you're not around big fish, you're not going to catch big fish.
With anything, though.
With anything. You have to be.
Can't catch what isn't there, Uncle Frank.
Right. So like all the map work and stuff that we do, that's to help you guys focus in on where you're liable to catch better quality bass too. Now they're high percentage areas, but they're also where you're going to look for better quality fish. All
right. I got a question, and I'm going to put you on the spot here because I don't know what your answer is going to be, but I did see it in the questions before. Someone had a question about this thing.
The Ned Minnow?
Yes. What is the deal with the Ned Minnow, Frank?
Okay, so the thing with the Ned Minnow is the way the tail on that thing is designed. It has a real tight quiver to it when you're Ned fishing that thing.
You fish it like a Ned rig?
Exactly like a Ned rig. No,
this is not part of this. This was not planned. This is literally just a question because I've only seen pictures of these things, and I'm like, what in the world do you do with that?
Well,
you Ned rig it.
You Ned rig it. 100,000%. Now, I'll be honest with you. If I was walleye fishing or crappie fishing, I'd throw that on a jig head in a minute.
Yeah, it looks good.
But yeah, that's
Is Righteous Grass our next T-shirt?
A Florida man. A Florida man.
I know, but everybody, the comments are blowing up ever since the phrase "righteous grass" has been uttered.
Do I got to do like a Spicoli? What did you learn in school today, Spicoli? Remember that?
Yeah.
You're too young for that movie. You're just a babe.
What movie is that?
Oh, I forgot the name of it. God almighty. See, now you put me on the spot.
No, that's fine. But I mean, are you so the Ned Minnow just another thing you can put in your arsenal?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And you've talked about how if you go back to the 3 shows that we did 6 months ago where we focused on bait fish, there are specific types of shad that feed on the bottom.
Yeah, gizzard shad spend, which is a very surprising thing. Fast times at Ridgemont High. Dude, there you go, man. Fast times.
I don't know what's going on.
You have to watch it, Matt. Just watch it. That's fantastic. I love you guys. You're the best.
Sorry, we got to stay on track with the Neds.
Yeah. So, what the hell question did you ask me? Because I'm like going through
No,
this
I
movie
asked
in my
you
head.
about the Ned Minnow.
Yeah,
So
we already did the
someone
Ned.
asked, someone asked about the Ned Minnow.
All right. So what you were asking me something else and I botched it.
No, it's
What
just
were
about
you
the
saying about the shows earlier?
oh,
Oh, the bait fish. Okay, yeah, I
yeah,
got it. I'm
that
back.
makes the Ned Minnow make a lot more sense than if you think about how bait fish feed.
Right. Okay. So here I am. We're back on track. So yes. So we went. This was when we were doing the blueback herring, threadfin, gizzard shad, and gizzard shad spend a lot of time eating the debris off the bottom.
Yep.
I think 13% or 15% of their feeding time is spent nose down in the muck on the bottom eating crap.
Yep.
So that's very important to know. You have to know what kind of bait fish you have in your thing.
I got you. What else you got? Any more diagrams? Any more knowledge nuggets on the rock the rock related Ned for primarily smallmouth?
No, I am no diagram. I'm diagram less right now.
All right.
But just pay it.
Do we want to bloviate for 30 seconds and then take like 10 minutes of rapid fire questions to close the show out?
Yes, I want questions. I
Yeah,
need
because
questions.
we've got a bunch of people, a bunch of listeners and viewers on who are not able to watch on Thursdays at 8:30 a.m. Central Time.
Yeah, let's give it to them. Let's open it up.
South Jersey Fisherman 028. Frank, if you had the option to throw a finesse jig, specifically a finesse football head or a Ned, are you still picking the Ned?
If I'm in that situation, I'm going to have both of them
Okay.
because they do different things. The football jig is a constant drag on the bottom, almost like a wobble head. That's how I fish my football jigs. Now, sometimes I'll stroke them, but for the most part, I'm dragging them. I make them, even though they're small and compact, because I like finesse football jigs a lot. So even though they're small and compact, I make them a little bulkier, so they move and displace a lot of water, even though they're bite-sized morsels. So I'll have both in conjunction. It's just like when I'm structure fishing offshore and I'm throwing deep diving crankbaits like a Fat Free 7 or a DD22. I have a Carolina rig and a football jig out because you're going to get a preference from these bass, and you got to figure out what they want.
I'm making a new banner here.
A new banner. Hey, speaking of banners, it's 15% off on LureNet until
that's not
June
right.
30th. What did you do?
That's not right. That's not right either.
Ask Frank a question now?
Yeah. Well, it's supposed to scroll.
It's not scrolling. It's just up there, dude. That's fabulous. That's fantastic.
Scroll across. Add banner. Ticker. There it is.
There it is. Dude, look at that, man. That's live.
Know.
That's live and on fire.
That
Florida
is live
man
and
said.
On fire. Yeah, Florida man said.
A Florida man would say.
Sean said, I was bed fishing in our harbors for smallies, but they seem to have been on bed for a week and then nothing. Historically, they've been there in stages, but this year it's just empty. Why is that?
Because this year everything went off earlier than normal. I experienced the exact same thing on a smallmouth lake by my house. They were literally on the beds and off the beds. I snuck up on the flat, and I saw them cruising on the flat. No beds yet. I said, I got to come back when they set up right. I came back 2 weeks later, and there was a ton of empty beds and only a handful on the beds. It went off early this year. Like everything on Lake Erie is spawning like crazy now, and a lot of them are done spawning already. And usually that's July, and it's already done for the most part. They're still spawning on the main lake, but the harbors and estuaries, they're pretty much done.
What is your top bait for wet wading a clear water creek for smallmouth?
Ooh, I love this question. Okay, your guys are gonna make fun of me. It's called a Bomber Square A, and it's the 05 size. Bomber Square A 05. And pay attention to that bait because there's going to be colors coming out in it soon. I say soon, but not like that soon. But there's new colors in it. It's one of my best weightable creek square bills.
A Bomber Square A and what?
The 05 size. So if you pull up the Bomber Square A, you'll see them. The 05 is the biggest one they make right now.
Oh, that's big.
No, it's not big, dude.
Oh, it's 2 inches.
It's 2 inches, 3/8 of an ounce.
Oh, and it has number 6 hooks.
Yeah, number 6s. That is my go-to weightable river crankbait. Right there. You will absolutely plow them.
What color are you going with?
I go with a natural shad and a crayfish pattern.
So that one right there.
Yeah, and then chartreuse and blue is good with the rivers off color. But usually a lot of those little streams, it's never that off color.
So
if it's a true rock, yeah. And then I have the old Tennessee shad one, which is my all-time favorite. But I said it was old because they don't have them anymore.
I mean, can you not throw like a rooster tail or something in there too?
Yeah, you can, but it's not as effective because you have to keep it high in the water column because there's going to be branches and stuff in the water where the rooster tail won't get to, and where that little square bill will come over through and knock around everything. Now, honestly, if you got to go, you could literally go to one of those creeks with that Bomber Square A, literally, and bring just that rod and catch enough fish to keep you happy. But if the stream or the river is a little bit bigger, a little bit wider, then I'm going to probably bring with me, I'm going to either bring some 4-inch finesse worms or the Helgramite, and I'll fish those.
You've been on that Helgramite lately.
Dude, it's bad. It's bad to the bone. I mean, it's nasty bad. I've been drop shotting them on Lake Erie smallmouth and crushing them on it.
All right. Derek wants to know when you choose shaky over Ned.
Okay, so that's a good question because the reality of it is that the shaky head, when I'm fishing a shaky head, I'm fishing a 6.5-inch finesse worm or a bigger, longer bodied worm. And then I'm almost fishing it like a jig. I'm almost structure fishing it. And I'll even throw that shaky
pulling, dragging, waiting to feel something, kind of crawling it across the bottom.
And the thing about the shaky head, it's 100% weedless. And so if I know there's a lot of brush piles and stuff like that, I have to forego the Ned rig, and I have to go with the shaky head. So if it's a lot of wood debris and stuff down there, I'm gonna really go with the shaky head in that situation.
Okay. Let me go. Oh, rod and reel setup for this.
Okay,
a couple questions on that.
Okay, so you can use any rods you want. I use Powell's. I use the Endurance 744 spinning rod for my Neds. It's a 7-foot 4 action, and I believe they call it a medium heavy. It's not that heavy, trust me. It's got a soft tip to it, but it's got a real sturdy backbone. So I don't ever crack a fish with it. I just lean into them, and you got them. It's an open hook. And then for my line, I'm using 10-pound braid. Sunline 10-pound is awesome. It's like thread. And then I'll use 8-pound fluorocarbon as a leader line. Now, you don't have to get goofy with your leader line. Generally, what I do is I'll do almost double what my rod is. So if I knot it, I can hold my knot in my finger against the reel, and the end of the line.
I feel like a genius because that's exactly how I do it.
Right, because then
I know I've got 12 to 13 feet.
Right, and then so when you could retie, and you're not going to have 8 inches of leader line left. So that's generally how I play it.
All right. Sam has an interesting question here. What causes bass to, and we just did a show on this last week, kind of. You did a show. I just listened. What causes bass? Well, I mean, that's what happened. I just wanted to clarify that, Frank.
I'm on it. I'm so on it, dude. You're so funny.
What causes bass to sit inside the deep grass right next to a big rock pile, but they won't go directly on top of the rocks? And you can only catch them like punching or flipping a T-rig or a jig into the grass.
Okay. So those bass that are buried up are negative or neutral. Or they're using the grass for ambush. And their strike window is probably smaller. That's why they're not on the rock pile. But you got to be near the rock pile. So what happens is bass are opportunistic predators. And if they know if they're just sitting there out in the open, their little unsuspecting bait fish are not going to swim towards them. Nothing goes towards something that's going to eat them. No, mammals don't do it, and fish don't do it. It's just survival. And so they'll get in that grass edge and they'll ambush. The reason that you're catching them punching or getting through that grass is because it's easier to do that than try and fish that fine definitive edge.
The 6-inch bite window that exists where they'll charge out and
exactly. So you're getting it and you're dropping it right on top of their noodle. And that's why that works. Now, if you had a low light condition, those fish would probably run out a little farther to get something, because everybody thinks bass hide from the sun, but they don't. The sun doesn't hurt them at all, but they can see 10 times better in the shade. And that's why they use that to their advantage. They can see farther.
Would you like to have a question asked you that you do not know an answer to?
Yeah, let's see. When will Blue for Lipless Colors, Custom Colors be back? Okay, so here's what we're going to do, guys. I know for a fact.
Oh, you have an answer for this one?
Yeah, I do. I know for a fact that you need to be paying attention to that. Because
he's talking about the Booyah Hard Knocker Lipless Custom Colors.
Yes, you have to pay attention to that, because there's going to be a whole bunch coming back.
Like, are we talking months, years, weeks, days?
It's not going to be years, I promise. It'll be months, but it's coming back.
Okay.
And let me tell you something. We added some new colors to it, and they are bad to the bone, dude.
Clay with a little biology question. How long does a female bass hang around the bed during the spawn?
Okay, so I don't know the exact. I can't give you like the biological exact, but I can tell you this. They're not there long, because I was bed fishing last year, and there were females on the beds, and I called my camera guy and I said, Joe, we're going to do a video on bed fishing smallmouth, even though I can't stand to do a video on that. We're gonna do a video on it, because there were some behemoths that I found, some absolute sloppy smallmouth. I mean, like over 6+ sloppy ones. I said, we're gonna go do a video on this, but we're only gonna catch 3 of them, and then we're gonna leave them be. And I went back 4 days later, and they were gone. They were literally gone.
Oh. This is day 4. This isn't a regular BTL, but some very interesting stuff went down in the BPT on Cayuga as far as the...
Talk about it. Do it.
Well, there are just a number of smallmouth that appeared
caught more than once.
They were either very close relatives that lived in the same house.
They snatched a 7. I know they snatched it twice.
I don't know. That's weird stuff. It's a weird times we're living in. I honestly, legit, no BS, don't have an opinion on it.
Yeah, I do, but it doesn't matter what my opinion is.
Hey, you do have an opinion on whether you fish a natural lead or a colored Ned head on your jig, right?
I know. Now, this is my OCD, guys. I'm telling you right now, it doesn't frickin' matter.
Okay.
But this is my OCD. I either throw a green pumpkin head or a black head and nothing else. I will not throw an unpainted jig head. So that's
All
that.
right. Let's rack through a couple more here, and then I have about a 3 a.m. morning because I got to get back to the Open at
I
Fall. It's only like an hour away.
Dude, I appreciate it. Dude, that's every lake I have to fish is over an hour away.
I know. It's not a big deal. I used to drive 2 hours to the studio one way.
You're getting old.
I'm getting smarter is what I'm doing now.
Yes.
Mark C, have you ever used heavier line with a Ned?
Yes, I have. I do it for two reasons. A, the fish don't have a preference, or B, I want to slow the fall rate down and it's windy and I use a heavier head.
Okay. This is a very good one from John. When do smallies pick vegetation over rock?
Okay, now that's a really good. That's money. That's a money question, dude. I'm gonna give my hand up and say good question because I'm not 100% sure. I really am not. I have seen that as well, where they go, we're not having the grass, we're having the rock. And I've seen them go, we're not having the rock, we're having the grass. So what I could tell you there is just like largemouth will show a preference if you're flipping wood cover, they'll show a preference between softwoods or hardwoods. And that's what the smallmouth are doing. They're having a preference. It could be because there's more bait fish in the area and they're feeding on the bait, so they want to be in the grass because that's where the bait fish are going. Or there's not a lot of bait fish and they want the crayfish and the sculpins that are in the rocks.
Okay.
So that's kind of what could be the determining factors there. Or your lake is not a true grass lake. It's more of a structure lake and the grass is secondary.
All right. A couple more questions. How shallow will you throw your net? I mean, it's as shallow as you get big, right? Like, I mean, there's no 2 to 2 foot. You can catch fish in 2 foot on a net.
Absolutely. Especially if you're throwing the 1/12.
Yep.
The fish will tell me.
Good stuff. Roger, I think Roger's Montana. Either North Dakota or Montana.
Roger, we did a full-blown we did a full-blown hellgrammite section. And I fly fish for trout all the time. You're 100% right, dude. I'm going to tell you guys something right now. There is nothing that swims and lives in a stream that won't eat a hellgrammite. Except maybe them little darters, any game fish, even creek chubs. A hellgrammite is a protein bomb that no game fish in any stream or river can resist. Period. End of discussion. That bait that's an insane bait. Now, if you didn't see the we did a hellgrammite piece on BTL. I have a hellgrammite video on LureNet that goes into the biology of the actual animal of the hellgrammite. So you can check that out and get the details on how this creature lives. An interesting fact on the hellgrammite is the first major thunderstorm in the summer, the hellgrammite migrate to the banks. Because
so that's when you need to have one on.
Dude, they migrate to the banks by the thousands because their life cycle is coming to an end. So they have to get out of the water so they could molt and turn into the Dobson fly and then go lay eggs so there'll be more hellgrammites. So that's what you got to.
Wow.
Yeah, check it out. Check out the video on LureNet and then go back and look at the past episodes till you see. I think what we did. Oh, do I have it here? Oh, you guys, this is going to be special. Well, I thought it was going to be special.
Oh, you can't tease us like that.
I know. I got it. I just don't know where it is. I have so many damn illustrations.
The Grand Classic is going to be a epic illustration giveaway.
I don't have it. I have my Helgramite here somewhere. I saw it when I was cleaning the office, and you know what I did? I said, I'm going to put it in this folder so I always know where it is.
Where's that folder?
I don't know. I got a lot. I got a lot of folders here, dude. It's funny. I got all my shows. Oh, here it is. So when we did the Helgramite show, I was showing you how to rig the Yum Helgramite like you were going to live bait the thing with the split shot rig.
Dude, that is such a cool drawing.
I have a real one where I actually this is just my original ink drawing.
That is so cool.
That's my original ink drawing, but I had one that I put color to it. I actually had a real color illustration. But I'm not going through this now, so you got that one. That's good enough.
That's good enough. What else you got, Frank?
That's it, dude. I think it's might be beer 30 for this old man.
We've been drinking our coffees. Time to switch it up.
Time to switch it up.
Oh yeah, like I said, thank you for doing a night show, 8:30 your time, but we try to take care of everybody. And yes, you do have some fans on the West Coast. So when we do it at like 7:30, then it's 5:30, 9:30. This gives a little bit of chance for the people on the West Coast, everyone to get a chance to see Uncle Frank live and in person and interact and ask some questions. As always, very impressed with the feedback and the education level of our listeners.
Absolutely. I like the questions and answers, to be honest with you, because I love the interchange.
Also, we put a lot of time and effort into this, and with iCast coming up and a lot of other things, the numbers, the reviews, the comments legitimately help keep content like this coming your way. So if you have a Google account or logged in and watching this on YouTube, just hit the little thumbs up. That gets it to more people. Go ahead.
I don't want to interrupt you.
No, I was just going to do a plea to, if there's something that you see or like sponsor related wise, feel free to reach out. That it means a lot to us and our sponsors all the same.
Absolutely. I got to give a shout out to my buddy Rick at Marine Master Trailers. I'm going to give him a shout out, man. He got my you're
having some trailer issues?
Yeah, my actuator took a dump. No brakes, no actuator.
Sometimes I swear the universe is against you having functional equipment for long periods of time.
Well, because it's not my original boat. I bought it used.
Yeah, I know. But it just seems like the wildest stuff happens.
Yeah, and if it was my original boat, I could promise you there'd be nothing wrong with it. Because we all know I'm OCD.
All right. This has been another edition of Day 4 with Frank SCALISH. This was 117. Next Thursday, we are back live, 8:30 a.m.
8:30 a.m.
9:30 Eastern. All right.
Look, I'm writing it down on my calendar so I don't forget.
You're writing it down. I like these evening shows. We do them every once in a while.
They're fun.
Yep.
Good time.
Let's do it Thursday morning, Frank. Next Thursday, not this Thursday.
Next Thursday. I'll see you next Thursday. Hey, you got to go catch some fish, man. Smoke their brains out.
Hopefully 15 of them.
15 sloppy ones.
Because that means that I make day 3. But hey, I'm going to go out and try my best regardless of what happens. Try to take some of the things that you've taught us over the past 2 years and put it to practice.
Just go fishing, man. Just go fishing.
All right. See ya. We're out.